Part 3 of episode 70 was the saddest and best episode of all time. And this is the finale not only of episode 70, but in fact the finale of the first phase of the series. Now after 70 episode, everything will change. The main enemy of the agents is dead, and now the stronger enemies are coming to the forefront in the form of astro toilets. But it's all so clear because we're not here to tell you what you've seen and know. So I will try to mention the most mysterious and interesting things that you may not have noticed while watching. For example, what if I told you that the Plunger and the Dark Speaker will actually return to the show? Or how about this fact? The Plunger didn't actually become invisible at this point. And there's a different technology being used here that caused him not to be noticed by the Skibidi Toilet. But that's not the most important thing. I noticed for you. I'll also answer you why Titan's left TV is broken, and why Titan's cameraman is lacking power again, and what's going on with him. The episode is very rich in detail, so be sure to watch it from start to finish, so you don't miss anything important. And let me remind you about our subscription statistics, because 96% of people watch my videos without subscribing. So I hope you'll subscribe so we get to at least 90%. Now, let's get started. The episode starts off unusually, as Dafook changed the scene a little bit and added some details. Let me remind you that at the end of Part 2, there was nothing on the floor here. But at the beginning of Part 3, you can see a small toilet with an egg on it. It's very funny because we saw the troll leaks with this egg earlier, and then I thought he did it just for fun and we won't see it in the series. However, it turns out he decided to add it as an Easter egg. Of course, it's unlikely that it was done in any way that would affect the plot, but I really like that kind of thing. And we move on and notice immediately the second discrepancy with Part 2. Here the door starts to knock someone, and only then the Plunger starts to fly left. Although in the case of the version in Part 2, we did not see this. When he reaches the gate where the scientist is, suddenly a Skibidi Toilet comes out of the gate, and it would seem that's it. Now he's going to shoot the Plunger and the Dark Speaker. However, at that moment, the Dafook boom makes them both invisible. But that's not entirely true. It's actually much more complicated than that. After all, if they were able to become invisible all along, then why wasn't it shown to us before? Why hasn't Dafook Boom used this ability before? And the whole point is that most likely, the Plunger and the Dark Speaker Man in our standard sense did not become invisible. They were just not seen by the Skibidi Toilet because of his glasses. From the next scene, we see that the secret agent had a connection with the scientist and was always on the phone. This fact may explain why the Skibidi Toilet glasses appeared so quickly, already in episode 43. Just 4 episodes after episode 39, when the first TV men showed themselves in battle. Another confirmation of this fact is the appearance of the secret agent at the end of episode 47. By the way, I already told you about the significance of episode 47. Why does Dafook Boom go to the broken agent right after the assassination right in front of G-Man? Because it's weird. It's all clear now. Until episode 70, the secret agent was posing as a toilet worker and helping the scientist to gain his trust. In reality, he was stealing technology from the scientist to create a remote that could open and close any mechanism in the lab, as well as allow him to teleport into the scientist's toilet and prevent him from doing so. But what does the glasses I mentioned at the beginning have to do with these events? Here's my theory. Dafook Boom gave the technology to create Skibidi Toilet glasses to the toilets already in episode 43, because he realized that sooner or later they would learn how to make them themselves. However, Dafook Boom's glasses have one nuance. They are able to hide the presence of a camera nearby and create the illusion of emptiness. The glasses simply add the right pixels in the right places, making it so that Skibidi Toilets can't see the agents. However, there was a case where even the Plunger was visible. This happened in episode 68, where some Skibidi Toilets were not wearing glasses and managed to press the alarm button because someone noticed them even though the Plunger was in invisibility. And by the same logic, the invisibility effect disappears, and so does the recording error on the right corner, because if you are already seen, the system cancels this protection and everyone sees you, even those with sunglasses. After all, what's the point of leaving this protection if at least one toilet has already seen you? So the secret agent, just because of this, began to use this technology only from 68 episodes, so that the scientist did not have time to create new glasses or devices against invisibility. By the way, the technology itself was turned on by one of the green cameramen. We see around the corner they, as we realized later, are the secret agent's assistants. They even include agents who have been killed. One of them, for example, is a red cameraman. But about this, at the end of the video, I will tell you more. It is a very interesting topic. You will learn how, in general, the Fook boom creates them, and whether everyone can see them or only Plunger, and whether the Fook can revive a Plunger or a dark speaker in this way, so that they, at least in this form, appear in future episodes. Now, I would like to talk about something else, because in this moment, before the fight with the scientist, you can hear the conversation of the secret agent addressed to the scientist. Here's a listen for yourself. By this conversation, you can understand that the secret agent unequivocally put the point between the relationship and showed his true face to the toilets and the audience, among others. After all, for a long time, especially before the release of episode 67, people did not have a full idea of who and for what the secret agent helps, as there was not enough data. And now everything has already fallen into place. The fight itself started very epically, and the Plunger and Speakerman were very skillful at dodging the blows, and the device helped them a lot to not give the scientist a chance to escape. And even in the moment, he couldn't teleport because of it. By the way, as it turned out, his teleport is built into the toilet itself, unlike the teleport of the TV men, because their teleport is natural. That's probably why in the fight with TV Man Titan in episode 67, he didn't have time to press the button and run away with his fake robot. So he had to get out and run away. But then something very bad happened. The scientist managed to break the poor dark speakerman in two, and then he managed to make a powerful shot on the Plunger, which, apparently, and became critical for him, although he did not notice it much until he began to spark at the very end. For the speakerman, the same blow became too critical, because he was already divided into two parts. And so he, as we already know, will not survive this blow, which of course is very sad to realize, because for such a short period of time, all the viewers have managed to love this character a lot. But let's not talk about sad things yet, because soon came a rescue squad led by a big TV man. And in this moment, we notice for the first time a new TV man's ability, and perhaps only this TV man. He somehow managed to suck the black smoke of the teleport into his screen, and due to this, the scientist was not able to teleport. This is a very cool ability, and due to this, the agents were once again able to prevent the scientist from escaping. The big TV man himself says, "I will demolish you," when he walks in. Basically, he succeeds, and after turning on the white light, the scientist crashes into the wall. However, the scientist didn't get lost and decided to take matters into his own hands, so he opened the floor to jump into his fake version, which is another version of his prototype from episode 67. And this version has 4 huge lasers that shoot out very powerfully, so even a closed door can't keep the agents away from them. And it's a good thing the big TV man told his agents to fall back now, or maybe they wouldn't have survived otherwise. And they were also lucky that the TV woman, along with the big cameraman with the laser gun from episode 1, part 70, managed to come from the back door and make a hole in the side of the scientist's back to get all 3 women in there. This is the point where you can clearly see that inside the fake scientist is an entire room with screens. The TV woman, speaker woman, and camera woman successfully walked into the scientist while he was firing lasers. But there is some bad news. The big cameraman with the laser cannon unfortunately did not survive when he tried to fly away. Not many people mention him, but I think he also did a lot to win this fight, so give him a like if you feel sorry for the big cameraman. The scientist at this point starts yelling at the top of his voice, and I didn't understand why at first, but then it turned out that the women managed to reach him and crippled him very badly. The scientist already started to rejoice that he was able to escape from the women and even tried to run away, and so he opened the roof. But it turned out that there were 3 titans waiting for him there. To begin with, the titan began to roast him with the help of a cameraman's core, and then the TV titan, who successfully squeezed him in his hands. And at the very end, of course, the Speakerman titan finished him off without a chance to survive. And this moment is already one of the best for me, since TV titan and Cameraman titan are even a little bit shocked by the cruelty of Speakerman titan. But it is in principle and logical, because the Speakerman titan, because of the scientist, was infected for a long time and killed a lot of his friends because of this. So it is right that he killed the scientist, thus punishing the scientist for all that he did against the Titan Speakerman. By the way, by the background of the Titans, we can notice that finally the series will change to lighter colors instead of night tones, as the clouds are colored in beautiful yellow colors. But there's another interesting detail here. TV Titan can be seen to have 1 broken TV, and Cameraman Titan can be seen to have a slightly crooked lens, and also that he once again lacks power for his jetpack, as they don't glow. But what's even more interesting is that the same thing happens with Titan's Speakerman. If you pay attention, his cannons are flashing, and with all 3 Titans having damage or lack of energy, it means they had a battle between part 1 and 3 of the 70 series. I think that this battle scene will be shown to us by Boom in the full version of the 70th episode or in season 23 as an additional scene. But this is of course my guess, so write your opinion in the comments. Who do you think would be so damaging and draining to the Titans? Next, a big TV man appears in front of us and says, "Just a scratch." But we see that it's hard to call it just a scratch. Not only does it have 2 broken speakers and 1 is still talking, but its screen is also broken. However, I think it can just be repaired, judging by him saying it's just a scratch, so it's not critical damage for him, unlike the Dark Speakerman. He didn't survive, unfortunately. And then the green interference happens again, which means the secret agent has hooked up to the Plunger Man's head. And right after that, we suddenly see the red cameraman, who, as I'll remind you, died at the end of the second part of episode 70. And a little bit further on, we see the twin cameramen who died in the first part of episode 70. And here, probably, you will have a question. If all this is the work of Boom, and most likely a consequence of the fact that he got into the head of the plunger, as before the interference we did not see any ghosts, then how to understand the scene in the elevator in the second part of 70 series? For there, I will remind you that we also saw twins. However, in that case, there were no interferences and recording error signs at the plunger. So it turns out that these are holograms and just an illusion, or they exist in reality. Now let's write on the screen the phrase of the secret agent and also look carefully at the very location where he is, and everything will fall into place. First, we can notice that he's talking about a larger enemy, naturally referring to Astro Toilets. But he shows, judging by his helmet, exactly the UFO of an Astro Toilet, not the one we saw in the first part of episode 70. So we understand this UFO toilet is no ordinary Astro Toilet and represents something important other than just an ordinary Astro Toilet. Then he says that, in this battle, you should not survive. Plunger Man. It's only after that that Plunger Man starts sparking. That means he didn't die because of the battle and damage, but because of a secret agent. My theory is that he did it so he'd be in ghost form as a red cameraman. But it would seem, what does red have to do with it? I'll tell you. In my opinion, because of this secret he talked about in his text, he is willing to physically kill any agent to avoid giving himself away. But that doesn't mean that Plunger Man or any other cameraman completely disappears after death. Apparently, some agents become ghosts. By ghosts, I don't literally mean ghosts. The thing is, essentially all the cameramen are robots connected to the same server, namely Boom's computer, which we see on his desk, and judging by the heads of all the races, he's the one who created them. So if he can get into any agent's head, it wouldn't be hard for him to copy any agent's memory and make them code like in the games. Roughly speaking, even though Plunger isn't physically with us, I'm sure Dafook will save his code like he did for the Red Cameraman or the twins, whose projections we saw on Plungerman's behalf. And I think that's the secret Dafook Boom was referring to in his dialogue with Plunger, so that no one would know about the existence of life after death. Because then they're unlikely to be motivated to fight, knowing that you will still live and can be brought back to life at any moment. So what's the point of surviving at all? It turns out that everyone who has had contact with the secret agent is physically dead at the moment. As we know, the Red Cameraman also had contact with Dafook, and in the case of Plunger, he had to be finished off because he saw Dafook Boom talking to a scientist, and he is the only witness to this, as Dark Speakerman died, and Plunger, besides that, saw a lot more. Although Dafook probably did it with good intentions, agents wouldn't have liked the fact that their commander-in-chief and creator was talking to a scientist and passing on technologies, including the TV Men book, which, by the way, I want to talk about in my next big breakdown, so I highly recommend subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. As for the twins in the elevator, whom Plunger saw even without the interference of Dafook, it's probably because he's special, just like the Red Cameraman, who openly has a connection with Boom. Or maybe because their death and the fact that he couldn't protect them from Jackson Toilet affected him so much that he simply sees them even without the technologies. The Titan Cameraman, when he saw Plunger Man start sparking, didn't understand what was happening because everything was fine a minute earlier. He even approached to understand what was happening. However, unfortunately, that was Plunger Man's last like. As we remember from episode 51, the Titan Cameraman was friends with Plunger, and it's sad that everything turned out this way, and we won't see their duo anymore. Leave a like if you also felt sad at that moment. By the way, at the moment when Plunger said goodbye to Dark Speakerman, I remembered episode 66, and that's probably a reference. In any case, at least it's good that they made peace, and Plunger extended his hand because, as you remember, in the second part of episode 70, Plunger didn't even accept Dark Speaker's help. Well, as you understood, Plunger didn't completely die in the normal sense, and he may return. Honestly, my theory about ghosts is very extensive and supported by significant evidence, so I will tell you more about it in the next big breakdown. So be sure to subscribe to the channel and watch my other videos. This has been Iron Cameraman. Goodbye.